Hello, I'm NecroPolo, featuring some light flu. Quite normal in this part of the year. Anyway, last time I mentioned that my YouTube videos will be less frequent. Apart from my chiptune series 8-bit time capsule, I plan to make videos only when something interesting happens, and well, it did. So recently I had a gear acquisition. It didn't happen because I fell in love with a new product or I'm interested in these sort of instruments, because I really don't. I'm just neutral. I know that they exist, I know that they have a sort of rise during the last couple of years, but initially I'm pretty happy with what I already have. But this thing may solve two problems for me. Number one, that I will have a live show next year on the other side of the continent. And this time I will be a solo performer, so my rig has to be as portable as possible. Because of stupidly high fuel prices, going by car just makes no sense. I'll be using a train or an aeroplane to get there, so the complete rig must fit into some personal luggage. As far as amp sim or guitar effects go, I've been already covered. I use an Ampero Mini on stage for quite a while and it works. It fits into a big pocket. But traveling alone with a full-size guitar on the back, well, it will not work because of problem number two. I have an autoimmune disorder. Part of the symptoms is a multiple inflation of joints, arthritis. Even though during the passive times I'm just function like a normal guy. But during the active periods, it can give a hell of a lot of pain. Well, don't get me misunderstood, I'm fine, I've been doing it for 30 years. I mean, arthritis. And despite that it's a problem that's under control, still it becomes a little worse every time. So after a while, it became quite painful to wield a guitar. Even if you sit, this extra weight puts some strain on your spine. During the past 6 months, my back gave me quite a hell. It will pass eventually, sometime, but when it's on, the inflation is on. I need a solution to remain stage ready. And maybe a guitar weight reduction is one. And a headless guitar is, well, it's the textbook guitar on the diet. About my choice. Around my place I have 4 options. One is Steinberger. This blocky guitar was the very first headless guitar that spread. It's from the 80s and was used by legends like Eddie Van Halen. It's a greatly functional guitar, but it has 2 things that I don't really like. One is ergonomics. During some gigs we are sitting, and when I tested this guitar, despite that it has some contraption, that sort of leg or extension of folding-unfolding metal gadget to keep the guitar in balance, still it feels very strange to me. Also, right out of the box it cannot use normal strings. There's some adapter enabling this, but I just can't get it. Why don't you guys just ship it with that design by default? Well, we're using normal strings, 95% of guitar players, I guess, so it makes no sense. Anyway, this guitar at least comes with a very friendly price, around 400 euros. Okay, the second option is the company that made headless guitars into a thing during the last couple of years, Strandberg. It's a Swedish design and honestly, I think it's the next step in the evolution of the electric guitar. Still, there are 2 strange things to me. One is its special blocky sort of neck design. A friend of mine has a standard edition of Strandberg Borden, and he lent it to me for a couple of days. So, this neck is not something I wouldn't be able to reset myself to, but adaptation would require quite a long time, I guess, because every time I picked up this guitar, this neck was just some sort of borderline distracting. If it fits you, it's nice, but me, not really. And the second thing is price range. This standard edition of a Strandberg guitar of my friend was around a little bit more than 2,500 euros. They have an entry-level guitar indeed called Essential, I guess, and it's a little bit over 1,200 euros. I absolutely appreciate the engineering. Still a basic instrument that was manufactured overseas. Well, it's sort of hard to justify that price. Okay, the third option is an Ibanez Q. It's a very nice one, don't get me wrong, but it feels like a normal guitar with a chopped off headstock. The particular one I tried was sort of heavy for a headless guitar. Also, the fact that the input jack is on a traditional way, so it's not recessed, it just plays like on my Ibanez RG. Especially when I sat down, it was just in the way all the time. Besides, there was quite a big jump of pricing during the last couple of months. So then, the fourth option. I was just scanning YouTube for headless guitars and a video by Phil McKnight came up. I think he's a very knowledgeable and creditable guy. He gave a lot of good ideas about guitar gear. So he had quite a good opinion about this previously unknown Indonesian guitar brand, HILS, or Hex Instrument Labs, as it's a subdivision of Hex guitars from Korea. So I kept on searching and a video came up by Glenn Fricker, whom I consider to be quite creditable as well, plus one recommendation for HILS. Another one from Tech of Tomorrow, a great guy with good advices all the time. He said he loves his headless HILS. I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. I'm quite new to this headless thing, so the base model will be nice. Hardtail, 6-string, simple. I checked the specs. Roasted maple neck, stainless steel frets, shipped with a gig bag. I checked the price. It said 500 euros. Shipping is free. Wow. Okay, where's the catch? I thought. Features like roasted maple or stainless steel frets cost more than 1,000 euros for other brands. So guitar for 500 euros with all of these features? Well, it's strange, but welcome anyway. I pulled the trigger on it. Okay, so about this war field test or whatever, and why this video might be a little bit different from what other guys made about this guitar, called HILS HN3 3rd Gen. So the pack arrived right before a live show. Normally I bring a new guitar on stage only after quite a bit of preparations. You know, checking for all the loose ends, potentially changing tuners, changing pickups, checking all the electronics, and, you know, I just don't want the guitar to crap on me in a live situation. I need stable gear, because, you know, if I get distracted and jump out of the zone, I always start to play bad, and people don't come to see the band for bad playing. But you know what? I thought, okay, I already have quite a bit of pain in the back, literally, so fuck all of this. I unbox this guitar and go straight on stage, no matters what. To tell if it can swim or not is the best way to throw it into the deep water anyway. So I did. With our sound engineer called Dani, who is also a guitarist, we unboxed the guitar and I noticed a couple of odd things, just like immediately. But before, I'd like to state that this is not a sponsored video. Okay, so this is my experience with it and an honest opinion. So the very first thing about it is that the gig bag is very nicely made. Overall, it's just a tiny bit bigger than the violin case of a friend of mine. The second thing, the guitar is packed in with care. It's quite thoughtfully wrapped into this foil stuff, and also there is a string protector. This is quite normal, but not around the 500-ish euro price range. This guitar in person is just unrealistically tiny. Functionally, it's a normal size instrument, but it's a much more compact design than what the pictures suggest. The guitar itself is very light, indeed. Right out of the box, the guitar was perfectly in tune in standard E. I tuned it to drop C sharp just once during the whole weekend, and the guitar stood in tune for 2 live shows. The octave was set up perfectly. String height was a little bit more what I like, but considering the neck relief and the string height, It was set up intentionally like this. It has high-quality strings installed. My best guess that they are standard Ernibos or dead Arios. The branding marks are engraved into the wood. Tiny but very nice detail. The frets are filed perfectly, so it feels very nice and smooth. I have no idea if it's only this guitar or all of them are set up like this, but the closest guitar that was such smooth right out of the box was an Ibanez Prestige of a friend of mine for considerably more money. About the fit and finish, it's flawless. I noticed when we throw it around during soundcheck that it doesn't require a guitar stand. It has two tiny rubber feet, so you can just use any vertical surface and it will stay stable. So all of these things I noticed during the first 5 minutes before the soundcheck. And I started by saying strange or odd, maybe, because I didn't suspect that honestly. I suspected a 500 euro-ish packaging and setup. Think about something like the Squire Classic Vibe. That's a very nice line of these traditional electric guitars, but they are not set up at all. It's a mess when you unpack. Or like an Ibanez RG 421. Again, a very nice, very stable guitar, but not right out of the box. You have to set up, you have to check the electronics. Sometimes they arrive without proper soldering. Or I don't know, something around 500 euro. Nice guitar. Sterling sub. That's a good one. Still, my AX4 needed a lot of adjustment, this neck relief and string height, as right out of the box it was rather unplayable. So, considering the HILS HN3, I was suspecting this. But after realizing that everything was fine, functioning and set up properly, I just literally strapped it on and hit the stage. I finished the whole set with this guitar. Everything was fine, well, apart from two tiny things, and one of them is my mistake, absolutely. So I forgot to remove the pickup protective plastic foils. After a couple of songs, they started to peel off. Usually I use my pinky of the picking hand, just like an encore. It touched the bridge pickup and, this foil just started to peel off and I started to mute the strings. Even better, it happened during the middle of a solo. And I didn't realize what the problem was for minutes. I checked the noise gate, I checked cables, but no, it was just me, it's my mistake. The second thing that was a little bit surprising to me was the pickups. I use quite hot ones, with a huge output. Invaders, JBs, tone zone, things like that, and my gear is set up for these high signals. So if you plug a lower output pickup into such a rig set up this way, in practice, amps just didn't drive as much, noise gates start to engage sooner, and so on and so forth. But besides settings, you will have to adjust your playing style a little when you use a more dynamic lower output pickup. But even if you realize it just on the fly, it's not really a problem, just a thing. And I also realized that the stock pickups in the HILS HN3 are just incredibly trebly, well, at least compared to what I usually have. So the humbuckers are so percussive as if they were, single coil pickups. They do have this humbucker body, but also have this, single coily snap. It's not a bad thing, just a thing, My guitars usually end up to be quite like one-trick ponies set for this high-gain rhythm guitar playing thing. A more open-sounding pickup is just more versatile. Treble pickups can become microphonic quite easily, but I didn't notice it, and I use quite a bit of gain. I'm not saying that these pickups are unusable to me, because they are. I just have to reset gain settings, noise gates, and a couple of things to fit the much lower signals. I'm just saying that these pickups probably make jazz players, ambient players, clean guitar players more happy than me. Well, if jazz is mentioned, the tone pot on this guitar is a little bit strange. It's not too linear. So as you start to roll it back, it feels like nothing, and near around the end, oh, it's too much. It's full cut. It's not something that you cannot get used to, and definitely not something that a sound tech like me cannot solve by modding, altering caps or something. It may happen in the future, but not now. I would like to utilize the guitar as it is and learn of how to use it in the context of my music. So regardless that the pickups are my least favorite parts on this guitar, for the moment I don't plan to change them. So that's about this Warfield live test that this guitar passed just with flying colors. So on top that it seems to solve both of my logistics and back pain problems. This guitar is just much more than I suspected for this money. Because of my experience with electric guitars, I help to a lot of friends who want to buy a guitar. I help them to set up, I change electronics, tuners and things like that. But next time when someone asks about, please recommend me a 500 euro-ish guitar, well, this HILS HN3 gives me a hard time of not to recommend this one over anything. Headless, traditional, whatever. I just haven't seen such a value in a 500 euro package like this. As of now, Q4 of 2025, the HILS Next HN3 must be among the highest valued packages around 500 euro that you can buy in today's market. Again, it's not a sponsored video. I bought this guitar with my own money with the intent of playing the shit out of this. But this is my experience and opinion about it. It's not perfect, it's not flawless, and compared to the Strandberg of my friend that costs 6 times more, I mean the guitar, not my friend. So it's a more refined instrument, but not 6 times more. The HILS Next is the same way cleverly designed thing. And there's some pretty serious engineering and, logic behind all of the small things, like this rubber feet or this little chunk of wood around the end of the neck, where you can just clip on tuners and stuff. It makes sense. So as for a closing word, well, this video may never reach HILS guitars, but who knows, maybe yes. So there are my tiny design suggestions. So the first one is that it would be extremely useful if the tuning packs were compatible with a bigger Allen key. If you restring and tune your guitar at home, it doesn't matter. But if you have to do it on the road, or especially before the show, there is quite a bit of tension before it and you can be a little bit stressed. That means you start to sweat. And it makes the tuning packs sort of very slippery, very hard to set up. So it would be very, very useful to be able to turn the tuning packs with an Allen key. My second suggestion is a tiny one. If pots were placed in a single line or maybe following this radius, they would be less in the way. It's quite a common problem with guitars that have pots too close to the strings, just like a Stratocaster. I cannot play it. I always accidentally bump into the volume pot. Okay, idea number 3. About the metal headpiece. A clamp, like on a Floyd Rose, would be a much better solution than this tiny little screw that secures the string. It's so tiny that it can easily jump out and you can lose it. And even if you have some replacement parts shipped with this guitar, it can be a problem after a while. So that's it for today. This video ended up to be a little bit longer than I suspected, but what the hell. If you are shopping for a 500-ish euros or bucks guitar, these days I think it's very hard to beat this one. HILS Next HN3 Gen3. Very light, portable, easy to play, cleverly designed, stays in tune like crazy, and extreme value for the money. NecroPolo out. See you somewhere in time.